I'm going to show you how to do an increase. You're going to knit the first 2 stitches. So go ahead and knit the first 2 stitches with me, just like this. And then you're ready to do an increase. All an increase is adding 1 more strand of yarn so that on the next row you'll be able to knit there. Okay? So in order to get an additional strand of yarn, my yarn begins from behind. I'm going to bring it between the needles and forward into the front of my work. Now usually when your yarn is in the front of your work, you would think that meant it was time to purl. But we're doing an increase, so don't purl, we're going to knit again. Now it'll feel awkward because the yarn should be behind. So go ahead and slide your needle through. This time, because the yarn is in front instead of behind, you'll need to take it back to its initial location, around the needle, and then bring it through. When you slide this off, if you look now at your right hand needle, instead of having 3 stitches there, you'll have 4 stitches there. You've just done an increase. So let's finish this row and I'll show you the increase again. When we've completed this row, instead of having 5 stitches, we will now have 6. So if you count there, you'll see 6 stitches. And if you look closely, you'll see there are 2 regular stitches and then kind of a strange stitch. It looks a little bit diagonal, and you'll even see a bit of a hole, and then you'll see 3 more regular stitches. That hole is the beginning of our pattern. So it is supposed to look that way. It isn't a mistake. And as the pattern progresses, you'll begin to see that show up. So go ahead and turn your piece around, and we're ready to begin our next row. Every row from this point on out until we have 50 stitches on our needle will be done exactly the same. We will knit 2 stitches, we will do an increase, and then we will continue to knit across the entire row. So begin with me here. We're going to insert, knit our first stitch, knit our second stitch. We're ready now for our increase. Remember, we're just going to bring the yarn around to the front, then begin the next knit stitch, bring the yarn all the way around behind, around that needle, through and off. And now instead of having 3 stitches on your right needle, you will have 4, and then you can continue the rest of the row in a regular knit stitch. Let's do that again. We'll turn around. If you count how many stitches, there are now 7 because we've actually increased. Again, we're going to continue to increase 1 stitch each row until we have a total of 50 stitches on our needle. So again, knit the first 2 stitches. There's 1 and 2. Now we're ready to do our increase. We're going to bring our yarn from behind, between the needles, and in front. We're going to knit our 3rd stitch. And now if you look at this side, you'll have 4. Continue to knit across the rest of the row. And now we have 8 stitches on our needle. Now if you pull it down, if you've noticed, every time I complete a row, I kind of pull on the bottom. That's to make sure that all of my stitches are even, all of my stitches are nice. And as you can see, as we turn it back around to begin our next row, you'll see some holes beginning to develop. I'll use the needle to point so you can see what I'm talking about. Right here, you'll see a hole. That was from our first row where we did our first increase. Right here, you'll see a hole. That was from our next row where we did an increase. These holes are what is going to make the pattern around the edge of the dishcloth. So let's continue in this manner. Knit 2, increase 1, knit across the rest of the row until we have a total of 50 stitches on the needle.
Thanks for watching. Click on the next step or replay to watch another video, and please rate, comment, and subscribe. You can also visit AmericanKnitter.com to purchase the knitting DVD set.